had an experience not too long ago, just within the past 2 years, where I came very close to dying. I fell while I was hiking. I slipped down the side of a mountain, and I was certain I was going over the edge, and certain that I was going to die. And in that moment, there was the initial kind of adrenaline and fear, but there was also a great peace, because I knew that as I was going, I felt that it was out of my control. And when I stopped at the bottom, as I was falling, there was no reason that I should have stopped. God caught me, in a sense. But even before that moment, there was a peace that I experienced, that God, that it was sort of handing my life over to God. He was the one in control, and I was kind of forced in that situation to trust Him, but it was really that trust that was at the heart of it and brought such peace. And so I do think about death, and experiences like that bring it again to the fore, but it's not an obsession with it so much as a giving my life over to God right now, this moment, this day, given over to Him, whether I survive it or not.
If we call death its natural end, I don't think it's something that should be avoided. It's not something that I feel like I could take into my own hands. I believe I'm here for a certain amount of time, and when that time is over, I'm okay for it to be over.
The teaching of the Church is always that we should focus on our mortality because it puts all of life in the right perspective. And so for a monk, the daily remembrance of death is his great kind of launching pad or springboard to live in the present day, because then everything else is put into its proper context. Everything else is seen in its proper light, that we are pilgrims, that we are passing through.
Every day I honestly look forward to my own death. You know, they say when you finally have to face it, you react differently. But I hope praying for it and awaiting it, and preparing for it, will perhaps prove that I don't fear it. Well, we'll have to see. God's grace.
When I was a young boy, my grandfather passed away. And though I had been raised in the Catholic faith, his death was a great tribulation for me. When I saw him in the coffin in the church, somebody who I was very close to and loved so deeply, cold and silent and dead, and then saw him laid into the grave on that fall day many, many years ago, like the leaves falling from the trees, I was trembling in the face of something so awesome and something so ugly and something so terrible as death, because it was the utter end. There was no way my grandfather could awake. There was no rope long enough that I could put down into the grave to pull him out. And they buried him there. And I would say to a great extent, because of a lack of knowledge, ignorance of my faith, that had a huge impact on my life and really turned me, in a sense, away from the church, interestingly enough, because I wasn't given that paschal mystery, catechesis and teaching. And it was only later, when I converted and became back to my Catholic faith, that I discovered the mystery of the living Christ, of the Christ who's conquered death.
I had a lot of anxiety about 2 years ago, and it was when I would experience an actual panic attack. You feel like your heart's racing, and from my experience, it was some of the closest things I would imagine to what it feels like I'm having a heart attack. I might die. And so that caused me to actually think about what that would be like. And the thing that actually made the anxiety calmer and better for me was facing the reality that I might die, but death is not something to be feared. And so it was a piece of me feeling better about the anxiety, was pondering my death because of the reality of heaven. And death isn't scary if there's heaven. If there's not a heaven, then I'd be terrified of it.